Welcome. What is a recession? How is it measured? In economics, a recession is a business cycle contraction when there is a general decline in economic activity. Recessions generally occur when there is a widespread drop in spending. This may be triggered by various events, such as a financial crisis, an external trade shock, an adverse supply shock, a pandemic, or the bursting of an economic bubble. In the United States, it is defined as a significant decline in economic activity spread across the market, lasting more than a few months. Normally visible in real GDP, real income, employment, industrial production, and wholesale retail sales. In the United Kingdom, it is defined as a negative economic growth for 2 consecutive quarters. Governments usually respond to recessions by adopting expansionary macroeconomic policies, such as increasing money supply or increasing government spending and decreasing taxation. Definition. In a 1974 The New York Times article, Commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics Julius Shurskin suggested several rules of thumb for defining a recession, one of which was 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. In time, the other rules of thumb were forgotten. Some economists prefer a definition of a 1.5 to 2 percentage points rise in unemployment within 12 months. In the United States, the Business Cycle Dating Committee of the National Bureau of Economic Research is generally seen as the authority for dating U.S. recessions. The NBER, a private economic research organization, defines an economic recession as a significant decline in economic activity spread across the economy, lasting more than a few months, normally visible in real GDP, real income, employment, industrial production, and wholesale retail sales. Almost universally, academics, economists, policymakers, and businesses refer to the determination by the NBER for the precise dating of a recession's onset and end. In the United Kingdom, recessions are generally defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth, as measured by the seasonal adjusted quarter-on-quarter figures for real GDP. The same definition is used by member states of the European Union. Attributes. A recession has many attributes that can occur simultaneously and includes declines in component measures of economic activity such as consumption, investment, government spending, and net export activity. These summary measures reflect underlying drivers such as employment levels and skills, household savings rates, corporate investment decisions, interest rates, demographics, and government policies. Economist Richard C. Kuhn wrote that under ideal conditions, a country's economy should have the household sector as net savers and the corporate sector as net borrowers, with the government budget nearly balanced and net exports near zero. When these relationships become imbalanced, recession can develop within the country or create pressure for recession in another country. Policy responses are often designed to drive the economy back towards this ideal state of balance. A severe or prolonged recession is referred to as an economic depression, although some argue that their causes and cures can be different. As an informal shorthand, economists sometimes refer to different recession shapes, such as V-shaped, U-shaped, L-shaped, and W-shaped recessions. Type of recession or shape. The type and shape of recessions are distinctive. In the U.S., V-shaped, or short and sharp contractions, followed by rapid and sustained recovery, occurred in 1954 and 1990-91. U-shaped in 1974-75, and W-shaped or double-dip recessions in 1949 and 1980-82. Japan's 1993-94 recession was U-shaped, and its 8 out of 9 quarters of contraction in 1997-99 can be described as L-shaped. Korea, Hong Kong, and Southeast Asia experienced U-shaped recessions in 1997-98, although Thailand's 8 consecutive quarters of decline should be termed L-shaped. Psychological aspects. Recessions have psychological and confidence aspects. For example, if companies expect economic activity to slow, they may reduce employment levels and save money rather than invest. Such expectations can create a self-reinforcing downward cycle, bringing about or worsening a recession. Consumer confidence is one measure used to evaluate economic sentiment. The term animal spirits has been used to describe the psychological factors underlying economic activity. Economist Robert J. Shiller wrote that the term refers also to the sense of trust we have in each other, our sense of fairness in economic dealings, and our sense of the extent of corruption and bad faith. When animal spirits are on ebb, consumers do not want to spend and businesses do not want to make capital expenditures or hire people. Government responses. Most mainstream economists believe that recessions are caused by inadequate aggregate demand in the economy and favor the use of expansionary macroeconomic policy during recessions. Strategies favored for moving an economy out of a recession vary depending on which economic school the policymakers follow. Monetarists would favor the use of expansionary monetary policy, while Keynesian economists may advocate increased government spending to spark economic growth. Supply-side economists may suggest tax cuts to promote business capital investment. When interest rates reach the boundary of an interest rate of 0%, conventional monetary policy can no longer be used and government must use other measures to stimulate recovery. Keynesians argue that fiscal policy, tax cuts, or increased government spending works when monetary policy fails. Spending is more effective because of its larger multiplier, but tax cuts take effect faster. For example, Paul Krugman wrote in December 2010 that significant, sustained government spending was necessary because indebted households were paying down debts and unable to carry the U.S. economy as they had previously, the root of our current troubles. Lies in the debt. American families ran up during the Bush-era housing bubble. Highly indebted Americans not only can't spend the way they used to, they're having to pay down the debts they ran up in the bubble years. This would be fine if someone else were taking up the slack. But what's actually happening is that some people are spending much less while nobody is spending more, and this translates into a depressed economy and high unemployment. What the government should be doing in this situation is spending more while the private sector is spending less, supporting employment while those debts are paid down. And this government spending needs to be sustained. During an economic decline, high-yield stocks such as fast-moving consumer goods, pharmaceuticals, and tobacco tend to hold up better. However, when the economy starts to recover and the bottom of the market has passed, growth stocks tend to recover faster. There is significant disagreement about how healthcare and utilities tend to recover. Diversifying one's portfolio into international stocks may provide some safety. However, economies that are closely correlated with that of the U.S. may also be affected by a recession in the U.S. Unemployment. Unemployment is particularly high during a recession. Many economists working within the neoclassical paradigm argue that there is a natural rate of unemployment, which, when subtracted from the actual rate of unemployment, can be used to calculate the negative GDP gap during a recession. In other words, unemployment never reaches 0%, and thus is not a negative indicator of the health of an economy unless above the natural rate, in which case it corresponds directly to a loss in the gross domestic product, or GDP. The full impact of a recession on employment may not be felt for several quarters. Research in Britain shows that low-skilled, low-educated workers and the young are most vulnerable to unemployment in a downturn. After recessions in Britain in the 1980 and 1990, it took 5 years for unemployment to fall back to its original levels. Many companies often expect employment discrimination claims to rise during a recession. In US, the 2007-2009 recession saw private consumption fall for the first time in nearly 20 years. This indicated the depth and severity of the recession. With consumer confidence so low, economic recovery took a long time. Consumers in the US were hit hard by the Great Recession, with the value of their houses dropping and their pension savings decimated on the stock market. Thank you for watching this video. Goodbye.